you could be at the very start and that person is like at their peak and you're sitting over here comparing yourself, and it's like, dude, like you haven't even started yet, like don't worry, you know? Hello, welcome to my video. So I wanted to do a video on how to not compare yourself to other girls on social media and feel bad about yourself as a result, because a while ago I made that social media video about how I quit social media for 1 year and like this is what I learned, and in the comments a lot of girls were saying that going on social media makes them feel bad about themselves, or like when they go on social media they compare themselves to other girls and it makes them feel bad about themselves, or like it affects your self-esteem. So I wanted to do a video on basically how to stop comparing yourself to other girls on social media and in brackets and feel bad about yourself, because I think comparison is completely normal and I don't think it's inherently a bad thing to compare yourself to another person. I just think it's a problem when you look at someone else and then you feel bad about yourself and like it actually affects your self-esteem and your self-worth when you compare yourself to someone else. Okay, so number one is that nobody's life is perfect, and I guarantee you that if you're in someone else's shoes, like whoever's life that you constantly compare yourself to, if you're in their shoes, I promise you, you would not be any happier. And I say this because whenever I have like an actual conversation with someone, like an actual deep conversation, it's a constant reminder that we're all going through struggles on life, and even if someone's not posting like what they're going through on social media, that doesn't mean that they don't have problems. And I remember when I was younger, I read this quote that says, if we all threw our problems in a pile and saw everyone else's, we'd grab ours back. And I completely agree with this quote. Like if you knew what other people were going through, you would not want to be in their shoes. And this quote, it also applies to people's lives. Like if you knew what people's lives were actually like and what they were actually going through, you would not be so envious and you would not be constantly comparing yourself and thinking that you would be happier if you were in their shoes. Okay, number two is the way that you look at someone and admire something about them is the same way that people look at you and admire something about you. Even if no one has ever told you, or you just have no idea what someone could possibly admire about you, I promise you that there's probably like a trait or a characteristic or just something about you that somebody genuinely really likes and admires. You just don't know. And I find myself like when I'm on YouTube and I'm watching other girls on YouTube, I'm always thinking like, wow, this girl speaks so eloquently, or like she's so intelligent, or she's so like well spoken and smart, and like that's something that I really admire in other people. And then I have to like constantly tell myself, you know what, like the way that you're constantly admiring this and these girls, there's probably something about me that people admire that I don't know about. Okay, so next is you need to build your self-esteem, and self-esteem is basically like your sense of worth and value, that like the way that you feel about yourself. So yeah, you need to build your self-esteem and intentionally work on building your self-esteem to the point where seeing someone else do well or seeing another girl who's beautiful should not make you feel any less of a person, like should not make you feel any less in any area of your life. Like you should just feel so good about who you are and like where you are in life that when you see someone else doing well, or like if you see another girl and she looks fly, that should not take away from the way that you feel about yourself and the way that you deem yourself. And that's why I think it's so important to do things that build your confidence and make you feel good from the inside. For example, going to the gym. I think most people can agree that going to the gym builds your confidence, and it honestly makes you just feel good on the inside. And like I mentioned before, comparison, like inherently I don't think comparison is a bad thing. Like you walk into a store and you're trying to decide between like two apples, you're gonna compare the apples and choose one. Like I don't think comparison is inherently a bad thing. I just think it's an issue when you compare yourself and then you feel less worthy. And if that's something that happens to you, that you notice happens to you, I think that you need to intentionally do things that increase and build your self-esteem. Okay, so next is this quote that I read when I was younger, and it basically is, don't compare yourself to girls in magazines because even they don't look like that. And I have never forgotten this quote because I think it's so true. Like, you know, like back in the day, we didn't have, like when we didn't have social media, the way that the world told us about like beauty standards and who was beautiful was through magazines. So I just remember reading that quote and like I just never looked at magazines the same. And I think this quote can also apply to social media. Like don't compare yourself to girls on social media because even they don't look like that, because you really are just seeing people's best angles. And like with Facetune and Photoshop, sorry, you really are just seeing like the best of the best. Like, you know, when you take selfies and you want to post them, you don't just take one, you take like 200 selfies and then you choose one to post. And like other people, they do the same thing. Like they take a bunch of pictures and then you're seeing, out of all the pictures they've taken, you're seeing the best of the best. I just feel like with Photoshop and Facetune and filters and angles and like all of that, there's no reason why you should be comparing yourself to someone else on social media, because I mean, it's fine to compare yourself, but then to deem yourself less worthy and to like actually feel bad and to feel ugly, like it actually makes you feel bad internally. Just remind yourself of the quote, like you're seeing people's very best angles, like their best sides, and then with editing and Facetune, yeah, honestly, this is just something that I've always told myself, like don't compare yourself to other girls on magazines because even they don't look like that. Okay, so next is to use it as inspiration and motivation. Like instead of getting envious or feeling insecure when you see other people on social media, like why don't you let it inspire you and motivate you? Use it as a source of motivation for you to achieve your goals, whatever goals you have. Like for example, when I see pictures of Lori Harvey, it motivates me to go to the gym. Like honestly, there's been times when I'm laying down on my bed procrastinating going to the gym, and then I'll just go on Pinterest and look at pictures of Lori Harvey, and it's like, okay, time to go, like time to go to the gym. Like instead of getting envious and like jealous, like I genuinely use it as my motivation. The other day I was listening to this podcast and she was kind of just talking about letting go of your past and positive thinking, and she said something that really stood out to me. She was basically saying how you are not your past, and every moment you are new and you have the ability to completely recreate yourself. And I love that notion of just letting go of your past and letting go of negative thinking and recreating yourself, because it's so liberating. And I feel like social media, there's so much inspiration, like there's so much inspiring content on social media. And this kind of goes into my next point, but you should only be consuming content from people who make you feel good about yourself and people who empower you, because you will inevitably care less about certain things because you won't be so insecure. Like nobody's forcing you to follow people or to be like so caught up in the lives of people who make you feel insecure or like who affect your self-esteem. Like you control who you follow, so why not follow people who genuinely make you like inspired and feel good about yourself. Like on YouTube, I only watch content from people who inspire me and empower and motivate me, and by doing that I honestly feel like my self-esteem has tremendously increased. And even like positive thinking, like all of these like improvements that I've made in myself personally and mentally all came from when I switched to watching people who were inspiring and who made me feel good about myself. And like most of us, we're on social media, we're all consuming content, so it's really important to be picky about the type of content you consume and like the messages that you're internalizing. And I guarantee you, like if you consume content from people who were like inspiring and who are positive thinkers and motivational, like that will become your baseline state. Instead of being insecure and negative, like when you make that switch, you will feel good about yourself on the inside. And last is, we are all on different timelines. It makes no sense to be comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's like chapter 13. You know, we're all going at the speed of our own timeline, and it really like it makes no sense to be comparing your start to someone else's peak, you know? And I think it's so easy, like especially on social media, it can be so easy to compare yourself to others because there's so many like young, like I feel like social media is dominated by young people, like people from the ages of like 18 to 30 who are just really successful, or like they like appear to be very successful. So it can be so easy to be like, wow, like that person's 18 and they're doing all of this, and like I'm older than them and they've like accomplished so much more. But honestly, I truly believe like we are all on our own timeline, and I think when you properly acknowledge and agree that we're all on our own timeline, like our own journey, it really makes no sense to compare your own journey to someone else's, because you could be at the very start and that person is like at their peak and you're sitting over here comparing yourself, and it's like, dude, like you haven't even started yet, like don't worry, you know? So yeah, this is my little 2 cents on how to stop comparing yourself to other people on social media and feeling bad about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!